This was home base for our operations and where everything started. Our company sign was right here next to this telephone pole.
Joe Marino's family farmed vegetables in New Jersey for 4 generations, but Sun Valley orchards closed after frivolous and crushing fines made it economically impractical. This includes hundreds of thousands in fines and other liability for providing workers an affordable meal plan rather than access to a kitchen. The Department of Labor decided all by itself that Sun Valley owes the government more than $500,000. It's hard enough to run a farm. Imagine having to face an agency court where the judge, jury, and prosecutor were all DOL employees. They charged the farm with violations of regulations that govern the Farm Worker Visa Program, a program the farm participated in reluctantly.
For years, we were able to fulfill our need domestically, but around 2013 is when we started to feel a shift in that availability of skilled labor. It was a pretty challenging season to have enough help to do the jobs that needed to be done. That kind of propelled us into investigating how to use the H-2A program.
While government officials had been inspecting Sun Valley's worker housing for decades without finding major fault, the farm came under new scrutiny because of the guest workers.
Normally it's just one agent, and like I said, about a half a day. And this time they showed up, it was 3 agents, and they ended up being here for 4 days. And after the second day, you start asking questions like, why is this so different? Nothing else has changed.
The inspectors left without giving any citations. The harvest season ended, and the workers went home. It was the dead of winter when Joe heard about the results of the inspection.
In total, it was over $500,000 in civil money penalty fines and back wages. And oh man, that was a heck of a thing to read.
Sun Valley disputed the charges, but to fight the agency's allegations, it had to go through the department's own agency court system.
You get in there and then you start to look around and you see the massive team of attorneys and legal assistants sitting behind them, and you're in this agency courtroom with a Department of Labor judge who was a former Department of Labor attorney.
DOL court doesn't look like a typical court. Usual rules about evidence and cross-examining witnesses don't apply. The judge is usually a longtime DOL employee considering cases brought by people they've worked with for years, sometimes decades.
Everything the state would try, the point that they would try to make, and then you would try to combat, it just fell on deaf ears. You know the outcome's not going to be favorable. When the judge did issue her ruling, I could see it in her face that she knew what she was doing was wrong. She couldn't even make eye contact when given her ruling.
In 2021, IJ took Sun Valley's case to federal court, challenging whether agency courts are constitutional. Article 3 of the Constitution established the federal courts to hear cases involving federal law, including cases the federal government brings against its citizens. Those courts are overseen by neutral judges with lifetime appointments. But as the government grew in size, it created agency courts to determine violations of federal law. A study of similar courts found that the government won 90% of the time in the agency court, but less than 70% when the case was in federal court.
I think it should be an American citizen's constitutional right to have its day in a fair federal court system.
Joe is right, and IJ isn't fighting just for him. We're defending small business owners in Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Maryland. When the government wants to hand down devastating fines, it has to prove its case in a real court. Now, the Supreme Court will hear Sun Valley's case. The clock can't be rolled back for Sun Valley, but the court can reaffirm this important constitutional principle and give Americans a fair fight against the federal government.